What I'm going to work on this time is something that really isn't worth fixing. I'll say that right up front. But there's something satisfying about working on something that's almost as old as I am. This one's a Philco AM/FM table radio, all solid state, and this one needs a little bit of TLC. I have a Philco, old dual speaker Philco radio, solid state. Tuning dial's kind of going up a bit crooked, which is par for the course for a lot of these. Solid state radio. Wood cabinet's not in great shape, although that could be quite easily repaired. Not by me, of course. I don't work on cabinets. Let's just see what's wrong with this one. So I looked up the email for this one. The fellow that sent me this picked it up at a secondhand store. He says the volume control isn't working properly. It's scratchy. It could need a good cleaning. The tuning knob is not working properly. We'll see if we can straighten that out. It's just sticking. That's what it is. It's sticking on one side, which is quite common on these. And he says he thinks it needs a new electrical cord. You think? Yeah, okay. Anyway, we're going to see if we can get this one running and get a new cord on there for him. And see if I can fix that up and get that tuning dial working correctly. This unit is not in great shape, but we don't want to make it in any worse shape. So, good old work mat in place. Made in Taiwan by Philco Taiwan. Philco Ford Corporation. This was after they stopped making them in the States, obviously. But it's still using good old 1/4-inch drive screws, hex screws, I should say. Good old 1/4-inch. It was very common on American-made products. The Philcos, the Zeniths, the RCAs, the Admirals, all the American-made sets of the day used these 1/4-inch screws. We loved them. The only thing better than a 1/4-inch drive, a nut driver type of screw, is, you want to take a guess? What's the only thing that's better than that? I'll give you a clue. It was made in Canada. Robertson. We won't talk about Torx or anything because they came along later. Torx was actually just an improvement on a Robertson screw. See, they saw a great idea and they made it better. Well, they didn't make it better, they just made it different. But here's our radio. It's just a standard transistor radio. First things first though, we're going to get the radio chassis out of the rest of the cabinet so that I can work on it. And that's held in place with 6 more 1/4-inch screws. I used to have one of these that had a magnet in it. In fact, I think this one did at one time. But the magnet either fell out or got pushed through. Now this should remove the entire face. And the circuit board and everything should go with it. I think the transformer has to be, it's mounted separately, so I have to remove that. But I need to get this face off of here so that I can take the front off and get at that tuning. Now, this is not a stereo radio, it's mono. It's just a dual speaker. You'll notice that the speakers themselves are just wired in parallel with each other. But still, these ones didn't have bad sound. For a little table radio, they actually sounded pretty good. Gonna disconnect the antenna terminals on the back here. Even though it says do not remove bottom screws, I kind of have to because I got to remove a couple screws that are below this bottom plate that holds a little circuit board on, which is part of the power supply, and the transformer of course is mounted over here. Got to lift up the little antenna bar here to get it over top of the little, it's a little funny. A friend of mine just sent me an instant message. He's found an SLV R1000 Sony Super VHS for $50, and he asked me if he thinks it's worth $50. For a Super VHS machine, yeah, it's worth $50. Even if it doesn't work, it's worth $50. Okay, so now I got to get into the the dial string here. Got to remove the other screws here, I think, to get into the radio. I want to take the front faceplate off so I can see why that dial string is hanging up. I'm going to remove the knobs. Well, that one's going to have to get glued. The knob just kind of fell apart in my hand. The cover fell off of it. But I got to remove the knob so that I can remove the chassis from the front cabinet, so that I can get at that tuning dial and try and get that straightened out. I think someone glued this on in the past because this is impossible to get this one off. Oh man, that was a tight fit. Okay, well, we'll be gluing this back onto the knob that fell off. Anyway, that part's taken care of. Let's remove the remaining 3 1/4-inch screws, and that should free the chassis from the faceplate.
Here's something I just noticed. Check out the speakers. They're 22 ohms each. When's the last time you saw a 22 ohm speaker? I don't think I've ever seen one.
Okay, so there's the radio off. Spiders in this thing too. So you can see what's happening on here is this is catching. I might be able to fix that. I may just have to tighten up the string a bit. The string is it's what holds us straight, right? So it's dipping on one side a bit just because the tension of the string appears to be a little bit low. So this is the problem, why the pointer is dipping a bit. They don't have any pulleys on here, so the string itself just goes around the plastic. And what's happened over the years, from tuning it back and forth, is that the plastic has worn a groove into the string has worn a groove into the plastic, as you can see right here. And this groove here is, of course, causing the tension to dip a bit on the string, which of course is causing the string not to be quite as tight, which is what affects the actual pointer itself. When the string is pulled tighter, it of course pulls the pointer straighter. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to do anything other than tighten up the string, but I don't want to tighten the string too much, because tightening up the string is going to have another nasty side effect, and that side effect being that it's going to cause even more wear on this plastic and over here, and of course it'll eventually cut its way through the line or the tuning string, which is what we don't want to happen. You can see it's also happening over here where the tuning string rides. Right here in the groove it's cut another groove here. You see everywhere the string touches, on every one of these little hinges, as they call them, or little pulleys, on every one of these little plastic tabs that stick out, the dial cord is cutting a notch in, and that's causing the dial cord to release its tension, which is what's causing this to dip on every single one. So what I did is I put one more turn around the shaft. I loosened the string off here. You couldn't see it because my light was in the way, but I pulled the string off from the top clip here and wound one more turn around the control shaft, which now increases the tension enough that it goes all the way up to the top and down to the bottom. Maybe a little bit on the low side, so we'll just adjust this up just a smidge so that it's saying 108 when it's all the way down. And maybe come down just a little bit. And then we'll put a little bit of glue on here to hold it. And now it comes down to 108. That should, I think, track the band pretty good. I'm happy with that now. It'll continue to wear, of course, because it's just the nylon cord. It's going to continue to wear the plastic, but at least now it's relatively straight. So I think at this point I can start to reassemble the radio back into its face, and then we'll deal with cleaning the controls and fixing the power cord on here, and make this thing work properly. No opportunity like the present to clean the backside of the glass, because it probably hasn't been cleaned since the 1960s when this thing was made. Late 60s, early 70s, whenever this was made. So we'll just give the glass a bit of a polish, or the plastic in this case. We'll just wipe it down, clean it off. Then I can reset the chassis and put the 3 screws back in. Just like that. Got the 3 short plastic screws to hold it in place. Alright, let's get some cleaner onto the controls while it's still apart. Make it easy to get in here and give the controls a shot of cleaner. And of course the switch. Could put the knobs back on now as well. Okay, we'll test the radio out, make sure it works before putting it back together. Or I should say, before replacing the power cord, because this one here is a disaster waiting to happen. Power on. Guess I have to glue this. There's my test transmitter. That's the antenna wires, by the way. We're gonna put some glue. I've got some good old white glue. Main Electronics glue number 2. This was the stuff they used to sell to Recone speakers. Believe it or not, this is what they were selling. Had this stuff for years and years and years, but it'll do the job for what we need it to do for this. Fix that tuning dial, or tuning knob I should say. Put that on there. We'll let that set up. This incidentally is the same stuff I used to glue the pointer to the string to hold it in place, even though it's not going to slip. It's on there pretty tight now, but I use the same glue on there for the pointer for the hold that in place. All right, now I can mount the radio back into its wood cabinet. You can see how much easier this was to work on by removing it from the wooden cabinet. And built back in the day when they actually used real wood. None of this, wood-grained vinyl veneer glued onto plastic. Everything's screwed down with nuts and bolts. Got it stuck to the end of my screwdriver, magnetic screwdriver. Let's see if I can get that to catch. There, I think I got it to kind of catch there. Now if I can get my finger in there and hold it in place, I can screw it down. There we go. That took care of that. Now I just have to change the power cord. So I happen to have a nice new power cord. So we'll take the old one off here, unsolder it, and solder the new one in place. Might be easier if I take out this little circuit board again. So I'll just remove that nut I put on so I can get the board out. And unsolder the old cord. Put the new one on. Unsolder the old cord right there. Prep the wires. This is not a polarized cord like the original ones wasn't either. It's not important on this. It's going through a transformer, so it's isolated. And once again, mount the board in place. The screw on the back, or the nut on the back side of it. Now I can put my strain relief on. There we go. The strain relief is on now to hold that in place. Time to reconnect the external antenna. Put the back on the radio, and then we'll finish up the antenna coupler for the power cord. Then there's the antenna coupler, which of course is this piece that is pressed around the power cord. Bend this open a bit. What this does is this is just an inductive coupling for the power cord. And basically we're going to put it right about where it's going to connect to one of the screw terminals on the back. This will act as an FM antenna by inductively coupling the AC power cord so that it'll act as an antenna. And basically it just sits on the power cord like that, and then we'll crimp it down with some pliers to hold it in place. And that's just attached to one of the screws. So that's station's 92.9. That's looking right on 93, almost there, so. 96.
Jack 96.9.
Okay, so there we are, 96.9. That's right on. I kind of had to wait for the end of the song because I didn't want to get nailed for playing Guns N' Roses, but that's showing 96.9. So the other station should be 96.1.
Charlie, still we'll get back into it. Got Tesla on the way, also the Foo Fighters. And a band I'd like to really hear some tours.
So that's 92.9. That's,
it's been a while since these guys have been on the road.
A little bit off. So
and they've got newer stuff out there. I'd like to see them go on the road. That's something.
Howard, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
88.
Howard Sapers is the chair of the Structured Intervention Unit Implementation Advisory Panel. And
so I think the dial is pretty close.
He's in Ottawa.
Okay, hun, we're gonna try something new.
Oh, is it expensive?
No, we're checking
96.9. That's gonna be 100.5, 101.1, 103.5, 105.7. That's a little test transmitter at 107.9. All right, there, it's all done. Controls are nice and quiet. FM and AFC off there. So even if I'm off frequency, it'll bring it in. Automatic frequency control. So that's working. I'm gonna say this one's done. Too bad the knob for the power is missing. I'm sure that one can be found for that. Anyway, this one's back up working again, and too bad that the cabinet is a little bit damaged there, but I'm sure with a little bit of work that could be restored as well. Anyway, thanks for watching.